Maya Cooper had never known silence as heavy as the morning she and her daughter arrived at the gates of New Horizon Valley. The city shimmered in the desert sun like a jewel no one dared to touch. Mile after mile of spotless glass towers, marble fountains, perfectly trimmed boulevards, and yet not a single moving shadow except their dented Honda creeping down the flawless road. She had come here out of desperation, not hope, clutching a $1 lease like a lifeline after losing her job, her home, and almost her pride. Sophie, only 6, pressed her face to the window, whispering, "Mama, why is it so empty?" Maya didn't have the heart to answer. The luxury penthouse waiting for them was supposed to be a miracle, fully furnished, immaculate, gleaming like a place designed for someone far richer than a mechanic who had slept on a pull-out couch for 3 years. But the moment she stepped inside, a cold stillness wrapped around her like a warning. The appliances hummed. The lights clicked on. The view stretched endlessly. But the emptiness, every hallway, every park, every street, felt unnatural, as if the city had been abandoned mid-breath. At night, when the automated lights blinked alive across deserted towers, Maya sensed the truth pressing against her nerves. This wasn't a failed development. It was a stage set, pristine and hollow, built for a performance no one was meant to see. And she and Sophie had walked into the center of it. The first nights were the hardest. Maya lay awake under soft sheets that felt like they belonged in a hotel she could never afford, listening to the strange sounds that rose from beneath the building. Low metallic rumbles, rhythmic vibrations, the faint groan of machinery working deep under the earth. She told herself it was plumbing or HVAC, but her mechanic's intuition refused to believe it. More unsettling were the patterns she began to notice during the day. Security vehicles drifting silently through the streets, headlights off. Cameras perched like black insects on every pole, swiveling too smoothly to be cheap models. Shopkeepers who smiled too quickly, spoke too cautiously, and ended conversations the moment she asked about the city's past. And everywhere she went, people avoided lingering. A single mother in Tower 9 whispered about restricted zones and trucks moving through the industrial district at night. A cashier hinted that certain places were watched more than others. Even Sophie sensed it. She clung to her mother's hand each time they walked past the empty parks, whispering that the swings felt lonely. Maya tried to bury her fear under routine. Breakfast, school drop-off, grocery runs, afternoons at the spotless playground. But each evening the same dread returned as she gazed at the lifeless skyline, an entire billion-dollar city frozen in perfection, like a photograph no one was meant to step into. And every night, as the rumble beneath her floorboards returned, Maya felt an invisible clock ticking closer to the truth she was no longer able to ignore. It was the discovery of the listening device that turned Maya's unease into certainty. Sophie had found it by accident beneath her tiny desk on the first floor of the pristine schoolhouse. A small black disc, no larger than a coin, with industrial-grade circuitry that didn't belong anywhere near a classroom. Maya examined it under the bathroom's humming light, the shower running to muffle their voices. Years of working with diagnostic tools made the truth clear. This wasn't a toy or lost gadget. It was surveillance equipment, expensive, concealed, and deliberate. Someone had planted it where children gathered. Someone was listening. That night Maya tore through her thoughts like a mechanic tearing down an engine piece by piece until the malfunction revealed itself. Why offer luxury condos for $1? Why maintain a $100 billion development with no residents? Why guard the industrial sector as if it held the city's beating heart? The answers pointed downward, toward the tunnels she had glimpsed twice and the reinforced doors she had found inside the empty towers. That was where the rumbling came from. That was where the power lived. And Maya, out of every desperate soul who had landed in this desert mirage, was the only one stubborn enough to follow the riddle to its origin. So the next morning, with Sophie safely at school and her heart thrumming like a loose timing belt, she packed a flashlight, gloves, and a crowbar, and slipped into Tower 19's service stairwell toward the underground truth that would change everything. The descent felt endless. Cold air rolled upward like a breath from the Earth's lungs as Maya followed the concrete stairs deeper than any legitimate residential system should go. At the bottom lay a corridor wide enough to drive a truck through, its fluorescent lights flickering in uneven intervals. This wasn't a utility passage. It was an artery, engineered, reinforced, and meticulously hidden. Hand-painted signs pointed to Industrial Zone Access, Tunnel Hub B, and Logistics Level 3. Heart-pounding, Maya moved like a shadow along the wall, every step echoing through the hollow maze. She reached a junction and froze. The murmur of conversation floated through the tunnel. Two men approached, their uniforms darker and more tactical than the building's courteous security staff. Their casual discussion, shipments, deadlines, routes, was not the language of maintenance workers. They passed her without a glance, but their presence confirmed everything her instincts had feared. Moving deeper, Maya entered a sprawling underground plaza anchored by a freight elevator tall enough to swallow vehicles whole. 7 basement levels flashed across its panel. 7. No legitimate housing project needed that. With trembling hands, she photographed everything: the junctions, the signage, the elevator controls. But before she could retreat, a guard spotted her silhouette against the concrete. A shout cut through the air. Maya ran. She sprinted through the tunnels, lungs searing, until she burst through the stairwell and into the muted safety of the parking garage, her body shaking but her mission crystallized. She had seen just enough to know she needed to see more. 2 days later, she went back, this time to a level even the underground guards hadn't expected anyone to reach. She found a reinforced door in Tower 19 and pried it open with a mechanic's steady strength. Beyond it lay older construction, rough concrete corridors carved like scars into the desert bedrock. The tunnel twisted and forked until finally opening into a cavernous chamber the size of a stadium. Along the walls stood hundreds of steel doors, each stenciled with a number in stark white paint. At first, Maya thought they were storage units, until she found one with the padlock left unlatched. Inside were shelves stacked with plastic bins. She opened one, then another. Cash. Bundles of $100 bills bound by crisp paper straps. Millions of dollars lined those shelves, perfectly organized, untouched. Her hands shook as she photographed everything. Other unlocked rooms revealed filing cabinets stuffed with ledgers, offshore routing documents, shell company transfers, and the names of powerful officials, senators, judges, commissioners, woven into a web of corruption that made her stomach clench. This wasn't a real estate failure. It was a laundering engine built on a billion-dollar facade. The ghost city existed for one purpose: to wash dirty money through inflated construction costs and bury the clean profits underground. And residents like her were decorative camouflage, proof of community, nothing more. Maya backed out of the vault trembling but determined. She finally understood the machine she had wandered into, and she knew someone above ground was controlling every gear. But power this large doesn't tolerate accidental witnesses. The moment Maya reached the tunnel's midpoint, distant voices echoed through the concrete, a search detail sweeping the vault levels. She dimmed her flashlight and slipped into a narrow side corridor, every sense sharpened by fear. Footsteps approached, deliberate and synchronized, like men trained to hunt in tight spaces. She crouched behind a support beam, her heart hammering so loudly she feared it might give her away. The guards' radios crackled. Breach detected, civilian female, possibly carrying evidence. Maya clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. They weren't guessing, someone had seen her. The cameras, the sensors, the watchers who knew every inch of this city better than she did. When the guards moved past her hiding place, she seized her one chance. Racing through an unlit passage, she emerged near the tower stairwell, climbed 3 flights on shaking legs, and burst into the blistering desert sun as if surfacing from an ocean. She didn't go home, not yet. She circled the block twice, scanning for tail vehicles, drones, or the unmarked SUVs she had seen patrolling the industrial zone. Only when she was certain she wasn't being followed did she retrieve Sophie from her playdate. Her daughter ran into her arms with innocent joy, but Maya held her tighter than ever, feeling the cold truth settle inside her. This place wasn't just corrupt. It was dangerous. And she was now holding evidence that could topple it or bury her with it. From that night on, every moment felt borrowed. Maya slept lightly, her instincts tuned to every hum of the building, every flicker of hallway light, every strange vibration rising from the tunnels. She hid her photos in cloud backups under 3 layers of encryption and dispersed copies across anonymous email accounts. She began studying the documents she captured, connecting patterns, tracing payments, mapping names. What she uncovered painted a portrait of criminal brilliance. Meridian Global wasn't just laundering money. It was funneling bribes, financing political deals, and moving overseas shipments through the underground logistics hub disguised as a real estate disaster. The empty towers provided plausible deniability. The few residents served as camouflage. The surveillance ensured silence. But no criminal empire anticipates the one resident stubborn enough to dig through concrete and lies. Maya realized she couldn't stay hidden forever. She needed allies, journalists, federal agents, someone outside the city's control. Yet reaching out meant exposure. Staying meant suffocation. The turning point came when she saw Sophie at breakfast tracing circles on her cereal bowl, her small face solemn. "Mama," she whispered, "I don't like this place. It feels like someone is listening." The innocence of the truth struck harder than fear. Maya understood then that this wasn't just about surviving New Horizon Valley. It was about protecting the only person she loved more than her own life. And the clock was no longer ticking. It was pounding. The decision came quietly, with no dramatic moment. Just a mother staring out at a billion-dollar skyline built on lies, knowing that staying silent would destroy more than speaking ever could. Maya packed the evidence into a concealed pouch beneath the car floor, kissed Sophie's forehead, and buckled her into the worn backseat of their Honda. The city looked peaceful as they drove through its empty boulevards, glass shimmering, fountains dancing, streets immaculate. But to Maya, every immaculate surface now pulsed with danger. As she reached the edge of the residential zone, a security SUV rolled slowly into view. Another followed, then a third, but for the first time, Maya didn't freeze. She lifted her chin, pressed the accelerator, and drove straight through the narrowing gap before they could close it. The desert wind roared past them as New Horizon Valley shrank in the mirror, a glittering lie swallowed by sun and sand. Maya didn't know what would come next. Exposing a network this powerful meant risking everything. But she also knew the truth was a rare kind of light. It spreads, even through concrete and fear, even when buried 7 stories underground. She reached over and squeezed Sophie's hand, her voice steady as the road unwound ahead. "Baby, sometimes life puts us in places to show us what we're strong enough to fight for." And in that lesson, she found the courage she never knew she carried, proof that even in a silent